everyone, and welcome to AFDigital's How to Accelerate Small Business Growth webinar. Today we'll be talking about key personalisation strategies and tactics that can significantly help drive business growth for SMBs. So before we begin, allow me to introduce myself. I'm Jemima Miller and I will be your host for today's event. I've been in the e-commerce industry for over 13 years, working across luxury, liquor, DIY, and health and beauty. I'm very excited to be your host today, as we have some very talented speakers whom will share with you powerful insights and opportunities to grow your business. The COVID-19 pandemic presented businesses of all sizes across industries with unprecedented challenges. These challenges have exposed fragilities in organisations, particularly in small and medium businesses, and caused a major shift in customer expectations. Having scarce resources makes it difficult for SMBs to fast-track their way towards stability and growth, especially while dealing with the pandemic's impact. However, accelerating growth is the only way SMBs can get out of survival mode and achieve scale. Here are some stats from the 4th edition of Salesforce Small and Medium Business Trends Report to set really a clearer picture on why SMBs need to focus on growing now more than ever. So number one, connected and personalised customer experiences are among the major challenges SMBs face in meeting customer expectations during this pandemic. Major moderate challenges to meeting customer expectations during COVID-19, bringing innovative offerings to the market, keeping up with demand, providing a quality product, implementing safety or sanitation measures, personalising customer engagements, engaging customers on their preferred channels, providing a connected experience, and responding to inquiries quickly. The second one looks as customer experience remains important as expectations remain high during the pandemic. It's imperative for SMBs like you to meet these expectations, make changes on how to interact with customers, and expand ways on how customers can reach you. 66% of customers expect companies to understand their unique needs and expectations. 88% of customers expect companies to accelerate digital initiatives due to the pandemic. More than half, 57% of SMBs are struggling to keep their businesses afloat. Those in the consumer products, retail, hospitality, travel, and transportation industries particularly feel this pain. So our goal for this webinar is to provide you with a solid framework on how to build a strategy, understand digital touchpoints, personalize customer journeys, and build a scalable marketing cloud environment, all key ingredients to help you grow your business fast. We have an esteemed roster of speakers in today's webinar. Here to talk about digital experiences and strategy is Tom Miller, DX Lead and Experience Architect at AFDigital. We also have David Roebuck, Marketing Cloud Capability Lead and Technical Architect at AFDigital, to go over personalisation and how you can make it happen. Brad Martin, Head of Digital at Craveable Brands, will share with us how Marketing Cloud and Interaction Studio amplified their personalisation strategy. And last but certainly not least, Pascal Hakim, Marketing Cloud Expert Solution Engineering Manager at Salesforce, will show us all a demo of how you can better utilise Marketing Cloud and Interaction Studio. So for now, Tom, the floor is all yours.
Awesome. Thanks very much, Jemima. Great. I wanted to start today with Steve Jobs, of all people. And I feel it's a brilliant way to start today's session on digital experiences because it's fundamental. If we can just go back a slide, yeah, thank you. If you search Steve Jobs customer experience into YouTube, it's only a short clip. I would have loved to have played it today, but we don't quite have the time. And someone asked him a really curly question from the crowd. And going into it, Steve Jobs eventually replies with, "You've got to start with the customer experience and work backwards to the technology." And it's back, and how this is backed up by the data analysis and the insights that we have as well. So really thinking about the customer experience and using data and analytics to inform that. Ultimately, what we're trying to do is create a contextual experience. This is the goal of digital experiences. We want the right time, place, and device to reach our audiences We all engage with your brands differently. So the way that I engage with your brand, the way that Jemima, David, Brad, we all engage with it differently. I might be on the couch, on my phone, on your website. Jemima might be reading her emails on a laptop or a larger screen. David might be on the train to work, listening to a YouTube video that you've released. We all experience your brand differently. Yep, and with each piece must have a purpose as well. So this is one of my favorite images. Obviously, it's a picture of a typewriter, all deconstructed, but if you take one of these pieces away, it doesn't work anymore. We need to think of our experiences like this, not implementing technology for technology's sake, or an ad for ad's sake, or a social post for social post's sake. We have to think of everything having a purpose within the larger experience. And we want to create these meaningful moments as well. This will help you to build relationship with your customers that are loved and that are talked about. We want to turn your customers into advocates. So what is a digital experience? This is probably one of the most well-known digital experiences, Uber, but you could replace Uber with Ola and the others that have now come on board. But most importantly, it combines the online with the offline. It revolutionized an industry in what felt like overnight for many people, but it's changed the way that we commute about the city. We now know exactly where our ride is, we know exactly where our loved ones are, and we know exactly how much it costs us as well, or how much it's going to cost us. And it's since expanded. You can now get takeaway, groceries, send parcels, bring your pets along. It really has revolutionized the way that we travel. Loyalty programs as well, they've had a massive shift to digital. I know some of us still get our coffee cards stamped every day, but we do have digital programs now. And it's really around how we gamify the experience. What can we see? Speaking of Uber, before, I wasn't a massive Uber Eats audience until they released their rewards program, and now my usage has gone up. Quite simply because I can see that I'm 100 points away from unlocking something. I know that unlocking something is only going to be small, but it helps me keep engaged. And the one-to-one experiences as well. And this is the one that's probably most close to a lot of us here today. We're either restricted or locked down currently. It's about creating those moments with loved ones. So how will it accelerate your business growth? Quite simply, by understanding your human experiences, you can provide engaging moments through data-driven storytelling. We say human because there are many people who touch your brand. It could be customers, clients, partners, employees is one that's overlooked as well. But if you build a one-to-one relationship, you build brand loyalists, and they become influencers. And now not influencers in the way that we think of influencers on Instagram, but they can go home and tell their partner or their family about the experience that they had with your brand. And all of a sudden you're using their network to spread the word of your brand. So how do we begin your digital experiences journey? The how? We need to apply an outside-in approach using a combination of critical thinking and design thinking to build creative solutions. Now, critical thinking, it's the act of analysing facts to understand a problem or topic thoroughly. Critical thinking does not mean negative, it means empathy, putting yourself in their shoes. How would they feel? How would they act? What would they do? Really providing or giving yourself a lens of every angle to how someone would approach a problem when looking at your brand. And design thinking is a set of cognitive, strategic, and practical processes by which design concepts are developed. So if we look at the diagram on the next slide, we start with the empathize, and this is about putting yourself in their shoes. We move around, we go to define, so what is the problem, how are we going to solve it? We ideate, we then prototype, we test, we deploy, and we're straight back to empathize. So this is continuous improvement. Digital never stops, and data is the key driver of this as well. So not only understanding it, but gathering it in a single source to make informed decisions. If we look at all the faces on this screen, we can see that these people, they're all different. They have different wants, needs. They have different demographics, psychographics, different drivers, different interests. They might be your business personas. How would they interact with your business? And this is what you have to do. You have to put yourself into their mindset and really empathize about how they would work with your brand or how they engage with your brand. By doing all of this, it's creative problem solving by identifying our persona needs, so what we just talked through, to deliver amazing solutions. And very importantly, the outcomes have to be desirable, feasible, and viable. So desirable meaning our humans must want these experiences. Feasible meaning it's possible to do by our own business, and viable, it's capable of working with the tech that we have. And we can do this through 5 key areas. So understanding our personas, which we've talked about, mapping our end-to-end process. So how does someone first engage with your business through to how they last engage with your business? Creating your user journeys, so your moments that we talked about earlier as well. Understanding how technology applies to each of these moments, and really leveraging your data to make informed decisions. So relationship design, this is the end-to-end experience. And you can see on the diagram on the right-hand side how this relates. It's not limited to our journeys or systems. It's really around thinking about how we want them to feel, what we want them to do, etc. Service design is our technology touchpoints. So it's ensuring we have consistent experiences across multiple touchpoints. It considers everything across every interaction someone can have across your company within those platforms. And UX design creates memorable experiences for a single product or for a point in time. And what does the data tell us to inform these decisions that we're making as well? So if we look at a very high level diagram, this is about putting it all together. You can start to see how relationship design, system design, and UX design come together. So relationship design being the ones with the faces there, and how that interacts along their touch points. UX design being the little speech bubbles. So at what point of the journey are we engaging with them through either a journey or a piece of comm or an ad, and the little cogs indicate the system. So we know that systems can come together to enable these journeys. And then mapping your touch points. So this is going to the next level, going that next step down. So if we move from left to the right, we look at what our channels and our audiences are. So how do we use the data that we have to properly segment audiences and generate leads? What is the experience we want to give them on our landing pages in the middle there? So it could be that different audiences have different needs, so they need different landing pages, different content, images, videos, downloads, forms. And then what happens on the right-hand side there? What happens when we nurture them? What do we want them to do? How do we want them to feel? What data do we want to gather as well? And what is the end result? So is it about getting a database sign up? Is it converting to a call? And most importantly, using analytics to guide and inform the entire process. So making sure that at every stage we're gathering data, we're putting it into a single source of truth, and it's helping us for that continuous improvement, that design thinking, so that we can go back at the end and inform our future decisions, our future marketing, our future strategies. So how do we gather first-party data? And really we want people to move from unknown to seen to known. So how to see people. So when someone comes to your website, we don't really know that much about them. They're anonymous at this stage. But what we can do is we can use a range of tools like social listening, social engagement, customer service, and even search ads, display ads. We're starting to drive a little bit of data out of them. So we see them, we don't know them, but we see them. And then we move through to how to know people, and that's really about gathering their details. So web pop-ups to subscribe now, it might be just a subscribe bar, downloadable ebooks or white pages, landing pages, competitions, again, customer service, gathering more data, and we're bringing all of this together to make, again, informed decisions, but also creating memorable experiences. And the value of data is very important as well. So I'm actually going to work from the bottom up on this one. So if we know our lifetime value of a customer is $10,000, we can then work out the value of a subscriber by looking at our conversion rate. So we know the value of a subscriber, if it's a 5% conversion, is $500. We then know what the value of a website visit is, and then what an ad impression is. And this helps to build out our return on advertising spend. It helps to put a value on our customer database. It helps us to inform our future decisions as well. How much should we be spending on ads? And lastly, we want to bring it all together. So creating your roadmap for success is a very, very valuable and important step in all of this. We want to be looking across each of the programs, and and creating out an architecture or a blueprint to understand exactly what customer journeys do we need, what experiences do we need, what campaigns do we need, and where do they fall into the experience. And again, this is about providing that contextual engagement that we're really hoping to provide our humans. So to finish things up there, I want to leave it with two questions. So how do you define your human experience today, and how will you redefine it? Thanks, Jemima.
Awesome. Thank you, Tom. That was a great run through for everybody on digital experience. And it really sets the stage nicely, I think, for what I'm going to talk about now, which is personalization. This is a topic that should be close to everyone, regardless of your position in the organization. Everyone's excited about personalization. And Tom, I'm glad that you mentioned that funnel around the value of data, because it is so important to understand that, because if you can understand the value of each impression, like you said, how much better can that impression be if it's personalized? And so what I'm going to be talking about for the next 15 minutes or so is a little bit about how we can deliver on personalization to achieve the growth that we're all looking for, with a few insights that I've picked up along the way. So I work at AFDigital. I'm a capability lead and technical architect. And where I wanted to start today was just talking about the premise of personalization. So a lot of fluffy diagrams are shown about personalization, but I wanted to actually start with the hard data that has been found through research. 91% of customers are more likely to shop with brands that offer them recommendations that are relevant. That's from Accenture. So note the keyword there, relevant. We can spin up recommendation engines, we can have all kinds of different solutions, but ultimately the customer is going to determine whether or not that personalized recommendation is relevant or not. And conversely, 71% of customers are frustrated when the shopping experience is impersonal. So we know that there's a gift and a curse with all this technology that we're able to use for personalization. We can get really good outcomes from that, but coming along with that is the expectation that customers now have. And if those expectations aren't met, then they're most likely going to consider their options and look at competitors. Clearly, this is something that is a hot topic for almost all companies. 89% of businesses are investing in this area. And 71% of customers say that a personalized experience influences their decision to engage with emails. So although sometimes email is viewed in a somewhat legacy lens because it's been around forever, the truth is we all know the value of email marketing is still very strong. And anything that we can do to improve engagement rates as marketers, we have to explore it. So when customers are telling us that personalized experiences within their emails are going to lead to more relevancy and more engagement, we have to follow along. And finally, calls to action. They can be personalized themselves. So think about offering a specific promotion to a specific customer, trying to get as close to that one-to-one engagement as possible for calls to action can lead to massive improvements in conversion rate, which is really what it comes down to in the end. So next, I'm going to talk about what marketers are looking for in order to give them that ability to meet their growth targets and to accelerate that growth. They need data, as Tom said as well. You're only as good as the data that you have. And generally, most organizations tend to start with the CRM data, the core attributes and demographics that you know about your customers. But when it stops there, that's when marketers tend to have challenges, because there isn't enough information to create those personalized segments, personalized experiences that they need. So layering on transactional data is usually the next step, going beyond the aggregated view of lifetime value and last purchase date, and instead being able to tap into the rich transactional history of purchases is hugely beneficial for marketers. And then finally, the behavioral data frontier is the one that is most often associated with personalization. And it's the one that tends to create those surprise and delight moments most frequently for customers in terms of the marketing that engages with them the best. So what that shows is that by having access to what behaviors that customer is taking, we're able to truly understand them, not just because they've told us through a form or through a purchase that they're interested in something, but because those signals have naturally been expressed, whether it's browsing the website or using your app, for example. Now, marketers also want real-time or close to real-time access to this data. It's not enough if you have the best data in the world if it only refreshes once a day, or even worse, if somebody manually has to press the button to load it from the data warehouse, let's say. Marketers need the ability to respond in the moment based on what is happening in that moment. So what I'm going to talk about in a few minutes is how other tools might actually unlock that behavioral data for you and make it much easier to access. And then if we look at a few other examples here, they want to be able to access more touch points. So we talked about the email channel already. The more holistic marketers can get with their ability to access customers, the better the experience will be and the more consistent it will be. So the picture here of the customer in the in the supermarket, for example, we want to be able to know about that. We want to be able to send a push notification if customer has entered our store and they've opted in, and we can give them something relevant in that moment that fits within the broader context of the customer journey that we're trying to build. And that, of course, will expand the reach of who we can target, because the more channels that we have, the more customers are opting into those channels, and the more possibilities we have to reach them. Testing and learning quickly is super important, something that I'm very passionate about. So personalization, again, is a wonderful thing, but if a marketing team, for example, is only able to spin up a test, and it might take them a few months to spin up a test in some cases, and then maybe a couple months to analyze that data, come up with results, that cycle isn't quick enough. So the ability to test and learn quickly is super important to figure out what works, what doesn't, and demonstrate ROI, which is, of course, a major issue when it comes to marketing tech. And also to remove the dependency on technical teams. I think we're reaching this point now where marketing and technology are very much fusing together, and there are fewer and fewer reasons that anyone who is building a campaign should be completely blocked by the presence of a developer to enable it. So a lot of the tools that we're working with now at AFDigital are really trying to work on processes where developers are not the roadblock, and instead marketers can achieve their vision without being held back. So now looking at how to make it happen. So first off, understanding the internal landscape. So before you look outside, always better to look inside. So in your organization, what does the tech stack look like? Where are the key individuals? What are those teams like? What are the processes that are in place? What lies ahead? So are there plans to make any major changes to that tech stack or potentially restructure? Getting a team together then who will be able to act as the champion or really claim responsibility for a tool like Marketing Cloud or Interaction Studio that we're talking about today is so important, because as much as external partners can help guide that path for you and help you along, there is always that need for a key individual to help facilitate the connection into the business and make sure that nothing is missed and that you're able to achieve on that vision. So finding out where those skill gaps as well is quite important. Next, I'm just going to talk a little bit more about Marketing Cloud. So many of you on the line will probably be quite familiar with Marketing Cloud. Others may be evaluating whether it's a good fit for your business, perhaps. But if you were to go ahead with Marketing Cloud, I would suggest first establish your environment by determining how it fits within your existing tech stack within the broader organization. What how and when will the data be flowing in and out, which channels can be integrated, and it doesn't have to be for go live. It doesn't have to be phase one, but it's always good to have in your mind an idea around what channels are going to be ideally added into the customer journey. And of course, our role at AFDigital is, we're going to try and inspire you as well. We want to help you build a strong and scalable data model too. So one thing that is always disappointing to see is sometimes customers aren't shown or enabled with how to build a data model that takes advantage of all the power of Marketing Cloud. You don't want to be in a position where you've integrated a big enterprise tool, but you're actually using it in a way that a much smaller tool could do the same sort of job. So we want to build on what Marketing Cloud is quite good at, which is building a big relational data model that can hold all the information about your customers in the proper way so that it becomes easy to use for personalization. So now I'm going to talk a little bit more about how Interaction Studio, which is a part of Marketing Cloud, can help really accelerate personalization and therefore growth. So first of all, it helps build on the automation capabilities of Marketing Cloud. And that's a step that we always would recommend whenever you're getting started with a big project like this. Figure out where are the pain points, where are the areas where yourself or your team are finding yourselves doing repetitive tasks or manually pressing buttons that we all know shouldn't be necessary at this point in 2021. So we automate as much as we possibly can in a very accurate, controlled way. And part of that is actually connecting departments together. So sometimes we've observed it's a case where the service team just isn't speaking to the marketing team, and therefore those opportunities for automation haven't been able to materialize. So we want to make sure that by doing the things that Tom is talking about with digital experience, that we map out that customer journey, we know the entire path, and therefore are able to really implement those automation and personalization opportunities that exist cross-departmentally. And we want your team to start to become much more strategic in the way that they work and not be stuck in a tactical or operational way of working. Now, of course, there are plenty of situations where there are teams that is their job to be operational, but if we're talking about the team that is responsible or in charge of thinking about personalization, the customer journey, customer experience, you want your time to be focused on how to improve that experience, not how can I execute these 4 campaigns that I have to build and send this week. So we want to move that into the personalized automated space. So then when we talk about Interaction Studio, I like to term this as claiming your real estate. So earlier I was talking about how we want to remove developers and who always will be needed, but we don't want them to be the roadblocks. We want the team who's working on the marketing campaigns to be able to go ahead with those campaigns without having to go to a developer each time. So the first step in that is to actually claim your real estate. So by that, I mean, you might have identified on your website, there are some key areas that if they were personalized, if they were able to be made relevant for every single individual, those would definitely help conversion and therefore help grow the business. So you can actually just go, print out a visual of your website pages and just like color them and circle the areas that you want to own. And then it's all about just, making it happen internally. Same goes for the email newsletter, for example, or even in your customer service console, where would you like to see personalization integrated? And if those things can be established, Interaction Studio is able to then reference those areas without the need to go on a big technical project every single time. And next, to find the low-hanging fruit. So let's say you have identified those areas of real estate. We help you to identify what are the places that we can get quick wins on the board straight away. Again, to help justify the ROI as soon as possible, but also just to get everyone familiar with how to use the system, how it works, and really build that confidence so that personalization becomes a very natural part of your day-to-day workflow and not anything that's intimidating. Same for implementing a framework. So we want to make sure that we're building reusable components, finding efficiencies so that you're not having to recreate the wheel every single time. Security is a major concern that we want to address from the ground up with all of our projects. So things like API integrations, anything that's enabling personalization, we want to make sure that every bit of customer data is looked after in the most secure way, that everything is encrypted as much as possible, and we can help you guide you on that journey as well. Same with minimizing your risk. We want to make sure that as the customer journey becomes more complex, because there are so many more personalized outcomes rather than the static, one newsletter campaign, we want to make sure that you have the visibility and the confidence across all of those personalizations so that you can confidently go to your boss and say, here are the 20 personalized campaigns I'm running, here are all the variations, here's the reporting, and being able to rest easy knowing that if something were to happen, you would be notified immediately. Business logic before AI is the last thing I'll say. It's very easy to run straight to the, how can I find an AI bot that's going to just be told to please increase growth for me by 5% in the next 2 months and just go and do that. Of course, we know that it's never that simple. So first, working on the business logic and building that as the foundation that then will inform the AI is, in my view, a really good approach. And it also helps, again, build that confidence of, okay, we understand how to build rules. Now let's work on how do we integrate Einstein recommendations, for example, which are a part of Interaction Studio. And that takes me to the end of my personalization walkthrough. So I'm now going to switch gears and bring on Brad Martin, my friend from Craveable Brands, who's going to tell us a little bit about his journey with Marketing Cloud and Interaction Studio. So welcome. Thanks for joining us, Brad.
Hi, Dave. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So I wanted to start just with the key topic of the day, which is about business growth. Can you just tell us a little bit about, with Craveable, what are the problems that you identified that were standing in the way of your growth targets, and how was Marketing Cloud and later Interaction Studio brought in to help address those things?
Yeah, look, from a Craveable perspective, we've had a long-term partnership with Salesforce and have been operating Marketing Cloud in one form or another for about 5 years now. More recently, and particularly with our investment in Interaction Studio, because the first gap that we really identified was that we've had a focus on our loyalty customers and how they transact with us. So effectively, what products they buy, when they buy it, what the value of that transaction was. We wanted to use that to drive deeper personalization, and we'd really struggled to drive meaningful personalization from that. So we wanted to elevate that and really create what we would like to call a seamless cross-channel experience, where customers start seeing the same message through every touch point. So if you think about a promotion for free chips to re-engage a lapsed loyalty customer, ensuring that that message is presented via both email, SMS, push, but also flowing through to your app and website. And also being able to make that message more personalized. So can you layer in information about that customer in that message? That increases power and increases how people respond to it. IS helps us succeed in that, and in turn should drive an improvement in conversion rate for us. Second, Tom talked earlier about building up the customer profile. So we generate a huge amount of traffic to some of our legacy websites, and we know a lot about the 5% of customers that visit that are loyalty customers, but we know very little about 95% of the traffic. So to us, historically, they've been anonymous and unknown. So generating a bit of insight on that traffic, building up the capability to tailor message to that customer was a big selling point for us in bringing in Interaction Studio. Of course, AFDigital worked with us on getting some base use cases up and running quickly, so we were good to go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's been great to see that come together. And I think just to restate that 95% of traffic where you don't know as much about it, it's a scary number, but it's also such an opportunity. And we'll be able to see in just a bit with the demo from Pascal about how with Interaction Studio you can talk to that anonymous user and then merge the profiles together. So that definitely helps in that area. You mentioned already about the ability to like unify your channels together, but if you had to kind of provide an overview of your larger personalization strategy, how do you feel that Interaction Studio slots in on top of that?
Look, if I had to simplify it, I mean, I'd call it the glue. So it's a glue for everything from a digital standpoint. So if you think about, again, web app, email, SMS, just how to bring everything together seamlessly. So personalization can mean any number of different things to different people. I mean, from as simple as using some base customer information in an email to having a fully adaptive personalized website that changes everything based on who the customer is. For us, I mean, like we're playing catch up to some extent compared to some of our competitors in building out truly personalized journeys for our customers. Interaction Studio for us, again, helps enable greater segmentation of our base and also a dramatic improvement in the content that we actually serve to our most valuable customers. Again, I think earlier we talked a little bit about the concept of behavioral data. So layering on digital behavioral data on top of the transactional data provides obvious benefit. First through just an understanding of what our customers are doing, but also through the potential blockers that they have to making a transaction. So again, thinking about some of those negative experiences, if they get an error message that was unexpected, understanding that and then creating journeys based on the back of that. But also just tailoring how, when and where that we address our customer base.
Absolutely. And I think for those who haven't seen it in action, one of the most important ways that the two systems connect is that anybody with access to Interaction Studio can inject a customer who's taking a particular action straight into a Marketing Cloud journey. And from there, then they have the ability to communicate on any channel. So that's really where it starts. I did want to add just for everyone's benefit that your situation with Red Rooster as part of Craveable is quite a unique one as well, in that you have your ordering website and you also have your brand front page website. And so what we've been working on most recently is actually bringing those two, even though they are separate websites, together into a single understanding of that behavioral data. So that's an interesting challenge and one we can continue to build on as well. So maybe that actually leads me into, so what are your longer term visions for Interaction Studio now that you've seen the initial returns on what the platform can do?
Look, I think the value that some people get out of these sessions is actually understanding what we do. So, I mean, some of the immediate use cases for us, getting really tactical here, really simple things like abandoned transaction journeys. So when a customer comes on, they're sticking items in their cart, they disappear from the site. Just intercepting that customer, trying to encourage them to convert, but also retargeting them afterwards. That's kind of base functionality in a lot of e-com platforms. We're trying to really enhance that journey for the customer and drive an increase in conversion on that. Our loyalty programs, so similarly, when a customer comes on, attempts to join loyalty but falls out of that funnel, intercepting that customer, helping them convert. And content personalization is kind of our third current use case, so actually adapting the content to the customer that's visiting. None of that is revolutionary, so it's all pretty much base case, but they can also provide huge ROI, and that's really how we wanted to start. Understanding how it works, what works well, what kind of ROI we're generating is important for then for us to look at what's next. I touched on negative experiences just before, so that's firmly on the roadmap as what's next for us. So again, if they're hitting a pain point of some description, so an order fails or a delivery gets rejected because there's not enough drivers, whatever it may be, hitting those pain points and turning that into a positive through customer journeys is kind of the next phase for us. Longer term, starting to integrate additional channels, looking at more data sources to stitch the customer profile together, and just building a more holistic view of customer overall that we can then in turn use through all our digital marketing channels is probably the next frontier for us.
Yeah, it sounds really good. And before we move on, because I know we've got some time constraints, but can you tell us about the returns that you have seen? So we are here to talk about growth. So obviously, I'm sure you're not able to divulge many specifics, but what would you say to those on the call today who are wondering how quickly does Interaction Studio actually show some growth return for you, and what does that look like?
I mean, again, if you think of some of those use cases I just mentioned, some of them have very obvious, measurable benefit. And I guess focusing on those, I think you called it low-hanging fruit before, even though they're not low-hanging in terms of the returns, that's probably the best place to start. So again, think about an abandoned transaction journey that you're enriching with data that you're getting through Interaction Studio. The measurement and attribution of sales to that campaign is actually ridiculously easy. So you know that customer abandoned, you've brought them back within 15 minutes, they've purchased, you can attach a value to that and generate ROI instantly. For something like loyalty, the equation is slightly more complex. We know what a loyalty customer is worth to us. We know what their lifetime value is. We know how frequently the average customer transacts. Converting a customer who abandoned loyalty, converting them to loyalty, again, we can attach a value to that in a roundabout way. We certainly value our loyalty base. We understand what it brings. That generates ROI. Things like personalization of content, particularly if you're doing a lot of changes on your website at any particular point in time, that's much harder to measure, I guess. But even basic things such as looking at, I don't know, is there an increase in banner clicks when you're driving personalized content? It can show that you're driving deeper engagement with your customers. And if that drives an improvement in conversion, then ultimately you're generating an improvement in ROI.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things I love about Interaction Studio is that you can very easily slot in a control group against any campaign, and that comes through in the reporting as well. So just trying to make sure that we're comparing apples to apples in that way. Brad, thank you so much for agreeing to be a part of this. It's been great to hear the insight. And please feel free to add any questions for Brad or anyone else into the questions bar on the side. So on that note, I will hand over to Pascal. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Okay, today I'm going to be doing a demo for Interaction Studio and show you what it actually looks like after we've done an implementation. This will allow you to get a better feel of what it actually looks like and what the options become for you. So today we're going to be talking about a fictitious brand we have called Northern Trail Outfitters. And like many other businesses, if you look at a brand like Northern Trail Outfitters, right now they're having some challenges. And the reason for that is that obviously the marketing situation has changed, right? This is a brand that clearly is very big on things like camping and hiking and so on. And now we need to start pivoting that, right? People used to come to buy camping gear. People used to come to buy hiking gear. If you are like me in Sydney right now, that's probably not top of the priority for you. You can't really do any of these things. And so when we look at a brand like Northern Trail Outfitters, they need to start thinking about what they can do differently and think about what are the options that we have and go through that process that Tom was talking about, where we start thinking about, empathizing with the customer, put themselves in their shoes. In this case, quite literally, putting yourself in the customer's shoes is the most important thing, because what we can actually still do is go for a run. And so in this case, we are going to pretend that Northern Trail Outfitters has been running a special new campaign aimed at getting people into running shoes, right? Find all the active hikers that have previously bought hiking equipment or camping equipment and try and get them into this, this shoe path, right? Running shoes. So this is an example landing page that you might get into after you've activated this campaign. And this could be done through email, it could be done through a social campaign, it could be done through digital advertising campaign. There's any number of ways that you could drive traffic to a page like that on your site. But now we really want to start giving people here an ideal experience. And we were talking a bit earlier on today about things like collecting your anonymous data. We can see here I'm an anonymous user, but still there's a lot of information that's being collected. Right, there's metadata about what the product I'm looking at, product price, product IDs, campaigns. I'm actually part of the test group here. That's great. So we can do that test that we were just talking about a minute ago and understand, are we getting different behaviors? Are we getting the behaviors that we want? Now, the great thing here is that this is designed to allow us to change how we actually have campaigns running. And what I'll do here is I'll just bring up my visual editor and show you how easy it is to make a change on this page. One of the key things to bear in mind here is that Interaction Studio is running on top of the website. It is not actually a campaign, so it's not actually a system that we're running over the top. Sorry, it doesn't replace the system that we are currently running. It is running over the top of the existing CMS. And the implementation allows us to actually see all these things on there. So for example, I have a content zone here, which I've defined. It's the dotted lines going around here, which tell us this is a place where you can actually choose to run a campaign. But any elements on the page could really have that done for them, right? You can have recommended products, you can have hero images show up, whatever it is that is interesting to you. In this case, I actually want to modify the Infobar campaign. This is designed to be used by a marketing user once IT has done the work that we were just talking about before. In this particular case, what I really want to do is set up a new experience. Specifically, if people are coming through because they have been exposed to this campaign that I'm running at the moment, right? They're in my audience segment, and it's the active, running for active hikers campaign. I actually want to change that messaging at the top. And I want to change it to say, don't just buy one pair of shoes, buy 2 pairs of shoes, right? Buy 2 pairs of shoes and get free shipping. Pretty easy. You can see it's already updated on there. That's how easy it is to set up a new campaign on here, right? I can just save that and away we go. This is great, right? Because typically, if you don't have a system like this, it's a lot of work to start doing those changes, especially when you start doing things like adding images and so on. We just want to be able to have these changes that are easy to do for a marketer or a business user without needing to go to IT for every single little change. We want to rely on IT for bigger projects, not these tactical things where we're trying out something and going, hey, does it actually make a difference if we offer free shipping for people who buy 2 pairs of shoes? Okay, so I've just shown you how easy it was to do that. I'm now going to show you the anonymous information that we are actually collecting on this user. And to do this, I'm going to go back into my campaign debugger, because what I actually want to do is see the actual user I am currently on site as, sorry. And I will just do that now. You can see my user IDs come up here, and I'm just going to click on that, and it is going to bring up my user record. Specifically, you can see that I'm really interested in running stuff, not adventure. I'm looking at male products, and I am also really interested in yellow items. This is actually because I was hitting refresh on that page while I was waiting for my turn to come up, so that we didn't get timed out. But here we are. So you can see some of the information, products that I'm interested in. Once I identify myself, maybe I've clicked on an email or maybe I have logged in, we can start also populating some of the information here. So like an email address, matching it back to the Marketing Cloud contact key so that we can bring all these things back together and understand and link up the known user profile with the anonymous user profile, bring it all into one place. And obviously that allows us to do things like start talking about the lifetime customer value. Now, the great thing here, and the bit that I find is really important, is that as soon as we start building this affinity wheel, we are able to automatically personalize a website for customers. But we can also personalize an email. We can personalize a mobile app. We can personalize even a phone interaction if your salesperson or your call center people are also on Salesforce. So how do we do that? Well, Very easy. We just go into the recipe screen and I can create a new recipe here to do that. Now, recipes are very powerful, and different business users will mean that you have to create a different recipe. But that's okay, because you can choose which one you want, and then you can actually choose in which scenario will I use a different one. In this case, I want to do a bit of collaborative filtering. I want people to see things like, I want people to see things that are similar to what other people like them are looking at. But for instance, if I was retailing wine, I might want to choose this system a little bit and instead start doing things like recommending wines from the same region, but maybe different vendors, right? Different wineries. If I was selling IT equipment, I would want to change it so that instead we are looking at, if we're selling a printer, if a printer's been added to the cart, we only recommend printer cartridges that are matched up to that printer. I can do all of that here through the exclusions and boosters and variations. And then as I start building up my my recipe here, I can keep adding additional rules, but also I can start learning from it and see what it looks like. I was talking about wine retailing before. An example there that we see in that space is we have customers who see that the top 10% of customers have a seriously high profit margin. They buy really expensive products. We want to make sure that we give them the absolute top best product that is the most suited for them. But on the other end, you may have customers who only buy things that are on sale. A customer who only buys on sale is important as well, but we're going to make the money through volume. And also, we might be able to use these customers to, for instance, sell things that we need to move out of our warehouse. Right? There's a real business problem. I want to match the two up together. Make sure my high value customers stay high value, and then make sure that I can move things out of my warehouse if I need to. And then I'm able to hit the simulate button here and start seeing some of the different recommendations that the system is making. So I'm going to select my new recipe that I've just created. And you can see here that different people get different recommendations. The bottom one here is clearly some sort of hiking users. They're getting lots of hiking shoes, whereas the top person is getting shoes that are substantially more suited to at least trail running or going down for a run at the moment while they're stuck in lockdown. This is great, right? Because we can make sure that everyone sees something that is appropriate for them, and we can keep working on this, setting up new rules so that people get to see what is actually important for them. Okay, that's great. The next thing that we want to do past that is start doing things like sending data back into Marketing Cloud so that we can make sure that we are able to send and connect all this data together to really create the perfect customer experience. In this case, I've got a new segment here that is really interesting to me, which is people who have just become shoe fans in the last 7 days. The reason that I care about that is that I may have purchased a lot of camping gear over the last 3-4 years, but right now I've been in lockdown for 2 months. I'm not sure how much longer I've been in lockdown for. It's highly unlikely I'm going to buy any sort of camping equipment. However, I do need new running shoes. And so what I can do here is just jump in and select my favorite, in this case, category. And I'm going to select footwear. And I'm going to change down that time period down to the last 7 days. The reason that I want to do that is that I just want new people who've just started that, that new category. I'm not looking at people who have always bought shoes from us. I really want the new ones. And what I'm going to do here is go to setup, and I'm actually going to send this through to Journey Builder within Marketing Cloud so that we can start journeys from that. This is how easy it is to do when I want to connect different systems and pass data through from my website activity back through to automatically firing a journey and sending data through. So you can see here, I'll just need to match my email address and then match it back to the email address on the Marketing Cloud side. And then I can just save that, send it off, and off we go. Now, as you can see, that was a very short demo, but it gives you a feel of how easy it is to use this platform, specifically how you can just use it as an end user and be able to drive growth in your business by really personalizing the experience for what the customer actually wants while still meeting your business benefits. Thank you, everyone. And I might hand over to Jemima now, who's going to be handling the Q&A section.
Oh, Thank you, gentlemen, for sharing valuable insights on how SMBs can fast-track business growth through strategy and personalisation, and how they can do it with Marketing Cloud and Interaction Studio. In the interest of time, our speakers will entertain around 3 to 5 questions from our audience live, but rest assured they will get to the other questions via chat, so no query will be left unanswered. So we'll go to the first question. With Tom's presentation, I would like to know, who should I have involved in developing digital experiences?
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Jemima, and great question. It really shouldn't be isolated to just one team. So not just the marketing team, or not just the IT team or the customer experience team. Really, we should be facilitating conversations from multiple teams. You know, people who are front of house, people who are on the phones, very much the digital marketing team, the marketing team, the IT team. And what we're doing is gathering thoughts, brains from different parts of the business to enable awesome discovery and great brainstorming sessions around how to drive the best digital experience or experiences. Thanks, Jemima.
Thanks, Tom. The next question is for, in David's presentation, I'm interested to know what would be the best first use case to set up on IIS that will drive great personalization on the web?
Yeah, so for that one, there are a number of ways you could go, but I feel that one of the best ways to start is to look at something like a pop-up on the website, because we talked earlier about real estate and claiming those content zones on the website. The good thing about pop-ups is that they don't even require that. So one of the good features is the ability to do an exit intent pop-up, so that actually can track the mouse movement and the signals of what is happening on that website, so that if it looks like the customer is about to leave, that's when you can show a pop-up that will offer them something, or even give them the ability to sign up as a subscriber to your list, for example. So I think that's one that a lot of customers pick first, because it is so simple to set up and yet also very effective.
Thanks, David. And just lastly, a question for Brad. Seems like you've achieved some great results, so it's a compliment. Can you please share what are your biggest learnings from your Marketing Cloud and IIS implementation?
Yeah, I mean, for us, there's any number of different things you can do. I mean, whether it's Marketing Cloud, Interaction Studio, I mean, there's literally hundreds of things you could do at any particular point in time. Start with your biggest problems, so some actual business problem statements, and you can find some pretty easy use cases to solve some of your biggest problems pretty quickly, which really helps you move on to the next steps. It's not that hard to generate ROI on some base use cases, so focus on what you can measure, get the good results, and build up from there.
Brilliant, great insights. Before we end, we'll just look at the key takeaways from this insightful discussion. Number 1, include DX in your digital roadmap. Creating digital experiences for your customers involves understanding your personas, harnessing the power of data to design end-to-end customer experience journeys, and understanding how technology applies to these moments. Key takeaway number 2, real-time personalization is key to improving customer experience. Achieving real-time personalization is possible, but entails an intelligent process of understanding your internal landscape, getting a team together, establishing your Marketing Cloud environment, implementing a personalization framework, and automating as much as possible. And the third one is magnify the full potential of Marketing Cloud. Make your SMB marketing goals happen by leveraging the personalization potency of Interaction Studio and the power of DX strategy to improve end-to-end customer experience. We'd like to take this opportunity to thank you all for joining our discussion today. We hope you learned a lot from our speakers and you're able to grasp key strategies and tactics that you can apply to your business growth plan. Feel free to reach out to AFDigital's consultants through their online platforms if you need help driving personalised experiences. I'd like to thank you all again and enjoy the rest of your day.